conference being held in Ashland County. You might remember, you heard in our newscasts that a plane went down at about 7:40 in the evening on Monday. It was a small 4-passenger plane. There was one man aboard, 72-year-old Gary Wolfelt. He died as a matter of that plane crash. The NTSB holding an informational news briefing right now. Let's take you there live.
In the experimental category, it's what we call an experimental home built, all right? Ended up coming to rest just past the field inside a wood line, a little less than a mile from here. The airplane is made out of composite material, okay? It's fiberglass. It's built from a kit. Okay, and it's powered by a Continental IO550 6-cylinder horizontally opposed engine that puts out about 300 horsepower. Now what we know so far is that the aircraft hit in a nose-low attitude, and it appears that at the time that it impacted that the aircraft might have been spinning to the right. We looked at the brakes in the trees above the aircraft accident site, and it appears that it only struck one tree limb prior to coming to rest. So it's nose down, it was spinning, and it appears that we have all 4 corners of the aircraft. And what that means is that we've looked at the wreckage that's there, and it appears that we have the tips of both wings, we have the tips of the horizontal stabilizer, we also have the nose section, and we also have the tail section. Now, one of the things that we've been doing while we've been on site so far is we're checking for what we call control continuity. And what control continuity is, we try to make a determination from the continuity of the flight controls to the cockpit on the aircraft. And what we know is that both ailerons are on the airplane wings. The horizontal stabilizer is also in place, along with the elevator and the rudder. And what the ailerons do is they control the aircraft in roll, the elevator controls the aircraft in pitch, and the rudders, which are operated by foot pedals, control the airplane in yaw. So that's all 3 axes on there. We've looked at the wreckage. There's no sign of any type of in-flight structural failure, fire, or explosion. We do not have any evidence of a post-impact fire on scene, and we do know that the aircraft did have fuel on it. As a matter of fact, one of the things that, as you approach it, if you've been anywhere near the wreckage site, you'll notice that you can smell aviation gasoline as you approach. Unfortunately, the gentleman that was on board is deceased. We don't have any evidence of any passengers being on board, even though it was a 4-seat aircraft. It appears that he was alone at the time. We've looked at the wings, and even though we have a smell of fuel on board, both fuel tank caps are in place, which indicates to us that the tanks may have ruptured on impact. We located the emergency locator transmitter on the airplane, and the ELT, as far as we know, after talking to the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, no ELT was received by any ground station or by satellite. So getting to the facts, conditions, and circumstances surrounding the accident, we're going to be looking at another number of items. One, we're going to be looking at the weather conditions at the time. As you know, it was rainy that day. So we do have meteorologists from our staff at our headquarters currently that are looking at the weather conditions at the time of the accident. We're looking at the systems on the airplane. One of the other things that we've done is we've been pulling the avionics systems out of the wreckage, and we're going to go ahead and retain those with the wreckage so that way we can go ahead and study them to determine whether or not there's any non-volatile memory on board. And what non-volatile memory means is that's the ability that once power is removed from the aircraft, the memory in those systems remains, and that way, if, depending on condition of those components, we can download them. And that will also give us performance information as to what the aircraft was doing. We also are sitting there and we're currently looking at air traffic control data, which includes both voice, radar, and what's known as ADS-B, which is Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. And what ADS-B does is it interrogates the aircraft, and by doing that, it determines what its position is in time and space. Now, what will happen also is part of this investigation, we'll be doing stuff like looking at the pilot's records, we'll be looking at the maintenance records on the aircraft, and we'll also be looking at the pilot's flight physiology. In other words, what his medical certification was, okay, and what his physical condition was at the time of the accident. In addition to that, we'll be doing a number of other things in the background also, such as we'll be looking up registration information, we'll be looking up airworthiness information that's currently stored by the Federal Aviation Administration in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We're also looking at flight path reconstruction right now to determine 3D what the flight path reconstruction was after he left Lakefront Airport to here, and we're also making a determination as to what his final destination may have been. Now, one of the other things that we're also looking at while we're doing that is we're looking at survival factors such as the restraint systems in the aircraft, okay, how the structure reacted also to impact. Now, once I leave this location, okay, in approximately 30 days, the NTSB will go ahead and develop and produce a preliminary report. And that preliminary report will have the facts, conditions, and circumstances as we know it up to this point, okay, and it is publicly available on our website at www.ntsb.gov. Now, the NTSB operates under what's known as a Sunshine Act. And what the Sunshine Act means is that we can't hide anything as part of an investigation. It has to be produced publicly. And those reports, once we complete that preliminary report, more work will be done over approximately the next 18-month period. And at the end of the 18-month period, the NTSB will go ahead and produce a factual report, which it lets us know what the facts are that occurred with the accident at that point, and then we will produce a final report. Associated with that final report will be a docket that includes photos, any research, graphs, charts, etc., that support that investigation. Then approximately 60 to 90 days after that report is published, the Safety Board, which are the 5 members that are appointed by the President of the United States, will issue a statement of probable cause. Now, at any time during the investigation, if we find anything that's of concern to us for either the traveling public, the pilots, the aircraft, air traffic control, passengers, etc., that's of concern and could be a safety issue, we can issue recommendations at any time. And with that, I have time for a few questions.
Can you talk about any extra challenges that investigating a crash with a home-built aircraft brings?
Regardless of the category that the airplane is licensed under, or whether it's a helicopter, balloon, blimp, powered lift, whatever it happens to be, there's a set of regulations, there's a set of engineering design requirements, etc. And even though a experimental aircraft's in the experimental category, kit-built aircraft are actually, there are many produced. As a matter of fact, it's a very vibrant, active segment of the aviation industry. So no, it's every aircraft has different, I wouldn't call them challenges, but has different design specifications and how they were designed. They're built to a standard. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why the NTSB leverages industry so highly, is because regardless of the fact that we have our own engineers, own investigators, doctors, etc., one of the things that happens is because there are so many thousands of components that are built and so many hundreds and hundreds of aircraft of different design that's built, it's impossible for us to be experts on every single one. So therefore, one of the things we do is we leverage the manufacturers, such as airframe manufacturers and engine manufacturers.
How large of a team do you have on the ground now investigating this between you guys and the FAA?
So we have myself, we have 2 individuals from the FAA. We also have the agencies that are standing behind us, okay, along with the coroner.
You said something about the reports. There was no radio. There was no baby calls. No cries of saying I'm going down. Or...
Yeah, preliminary information that we've gotten from air traffic control is that they had a conversation with them before this occurred, and that's something we're looking into. Is we're trying to get the official documentation from that because we don't do supposition. So there's nothing that I could really say about that right now, other than we know that they did have contact with air traffic control, and air traffic control was in communication with the pilot prior to the accident.
That 30-day report, will that have that communication in there? What I'm trying to ascertain is if he was saying that he was having mechanical errors or mechanical.
Yes, it will be. That will be in the preliminary report. Mm-hmm.
You said he left from Berkeley Front Airport in Cleveland,
Correct.
but not sure of the destination yet.
Not sure of the destination.
What happens once you pull the wreckage out?
Okay, so what will happen is that we'll be retaining the wreckage as part of the investigation. It will go to a secure facility, and we'll be under NTSB control because it is considered to be evidence. And once we have garnered all the information and data that we can from the wreckage, it'll then be released.
How is the wreckage being pulled out?
Okay, so what will happen is that there's an aircraft salvage company that will be arriving here today, all right, and they're going to be using a tracked vehicle. And the reason that we're using the tracked vehicle is we're going to go ahead and try to do as little damage as possible in order to be able to get it out of the woods. And that tracked vehicle will end up separating and segmenting portions of the wreckage. That tracked vehicle will then take it out of that location, move it across the field over to the road, and then it'll be put on a flatbed truck and it'll be transported.
Can you reiterate the manner in which the plane actually landed? So you said it was nose down, possibly turning to the right?
Yeah, it appears right now, and this is preliminary information, so it is subject to change as we garner more. It appears that it was about 10 to 15 degrees nose down, okay, and that the aircraft was rotating about its vertical axis to the right at the time.
And 10 to 15 degrees, does that mean this direction from flat?
Yeah, so it would be about 10 to 15 degrees, about the angle on my hand. Okay, and I've got time for one more question, and I got to get back to work. Okay.
With the experimental style of this aircraft, is there a level at which the wind will start to affect it and make it like you really shouldn't be flying in this?
All aircraft have wind limitations, even experimental aircraft. So I don't know what that wind limitation is right now. Okay. All right. Once again, 202-314-6100.
Dan DeRosa with 19 News. As the NTSB wraps up their news conference, this was just merely a briefing. He gave the media the heads up, do not ask what happened or what caused this crash, as he would not be able to answer that question. A lot of preliminary. Looks like maybe the fire chief or the police chief going to be giving a statement here.
1942, which would be 7:42 p.m. That's when we received a call of a report of a possible aircraft down.
Was any of the aviation able to help you locate it, or was it located by individuals?
They attempted to help us, but mostly individuals is what helped us locate it.
Is that the first crash that you guys had in Holt?
The first aircraft crash that I recall in Holt.
Okay, just some mopping up of questions there. Again, this was a home-built plane, what you can kind of call a kit plane. But from what we understand from family members, this man, 72-year-old Gary Wolfelt, had a lot of flying experience. He was from West Lafayette, Indiana. We know he was visiting either a friend or a family member at Cleveland Clinic. That's why he took off and landed at Burke Lakefront Airport. And perhaps the biggest piece that we've heard, whether it's from the Ohio State Highway Patrol, reiterated today by the NTSB, is that weather may have been a factor. They're going to have to look at that very closely in this, because we do know that it was raining. There were some storms in the area that evening. We're talking Monday evening at about 7:42. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Otherwise, there's soccer going on right now on CBS. And when that wraps up, we will be right on there with news and first alert weather. Until then, I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News. Have a good afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media at Cleveland 19 News.